So I just want to say thank you to Zach and Tom for bringing me onto this group page, and a massive thank you to everyone that's on this awareness of these predators out there, because as we know, there's many out there that are getting away with some really sinister crimes against women and children, which is a major concern of mine, considering for the last 5 years now I've been standing in the streets of London and in my community and all over the country, Liverpool, Stopford, Stockport, you know, all over Manchester, just to raise awareness on the crimes against our women and children. And, you know, coming across Zach and Tom was a huge thing to me, you know, showed me a lot of respect and support, and I want to show a lot of respect to these guys also, and everyone in this group that's raising awareness as well on these sinister crimes against women and children concerning these predators. And I hadn't known about this page, and I'm glad, like I say, I'm glad Zach and Tom's brought me on, because there's some good people out there really doing some hard work out there and making sure that this information's seen by everyone. So it's a massive thank you to everyone. Hi there. Yeah, you did, Julie. Yeah, you did. Yeah, but no, it's an important thing to me, because we had a small group in 2019 that used to do a lot of community outreach in my little town of Bury St Edmunds, coming from London, where I was brought up in Hackney. There was a lot of crime in the streets, and a lot of things were being swept under the carpet by Metropolitan Police specifically. And doing a lot of digging in the last 5 years, I found most of the sinister crimes that were being committed against women and children, and the abuse, rape and torture, was from those in power in political suits, which was Parliament and Westminster, police officers, specifically Metropolitan Police officers, and many other institutions and organisations like social workers, foster carers, the adoption services, even the state education department, you know, the schooling system. There was a lot of harm and abuse towards women and children in all these institutions and organisations. And doing a bit of digging over the last 5 years, I wanted to make sure that I could expose it in my own special way. Now, a lot of people over the last 5 years have claimed for me to be some sort of hero or saviour. I'm neither of those two things. I'm just what you call a voice for the voiceless, someone that can speak on behalf of those maybe too in fear of speaking up for themselves, and maybe too worried to stand up. Yeah, respect to MZ. And maybe I'm just what they call a voice for the voiceless, those people that too are frightened to speak up. And especially in the last few months, at least the last 6 months, I've come across a lot of single mothers predominantly who have lost their children to social services, which we all know now was created by Tony Blair to rip children from the family home. And it's a concern of mine hearing the stories from these single mothers, and they've spoke to me, and it's very upsetting. I've got children of my own, so I know how truly important it is to stand up for the next generation, to make sure that, you know, we are some form of support for those that are struggling. And I've got a very good friend of mine, her brother released a song called Elijah Malaysia, and now her 2 grandbabies were taken from social services, and her youngest granddaughter was abused by the social workers and foster carers and ended up with bruises all over her. I mean, these are sinister people. They're really higher, Chantal. These are really frightening people that are taking children out of single mothers' homes and then abusing these children. And a lot of these foster parents that are adopting these children that were taken illegally from mothers' homes and fathers' homes are now being abused, and there's not many checks being done on these people, and a lot of them are abusive parents, abusive adoptive parents, and you've probably got plenty of them on this page that are being exposed for being just that, you know, because unfortunately we are just living in one huge paedophilic ring, basically, governed by some really powerful elites sinister six satanic elites and government leaders and people that believe that they're doing right by the people, which is police officers and many other people. Yeah, so it is, thank you, Junior Bullen, thank you, I appreciate that. But yeah, for the last 5 years, I've predominantly been protesting in my streets. London has been the main hub for outreach and protesting. You know, we do it a little different. We don't walk around the streets shouting freedom and waving up a banner all day, meeting up at the end, and then there's a big screen TV and a stage. You know, there's people that do this a little different from what we do, and they have millions of people on the streets, but it's not really gaining the attention. They're doing it on a weekend when there's no one in power. So we come out on a midweek and we go to these institutions, these buildings where they house these sinister men and women who are in power above us, and we frighten them, we threaten them with our voice, without the need for aggression or violence or destruction. We can do it with our voice, and our voice is far more mightier than the sword and shield, as I said. And we go out and we expose their asses. We expose exactly what's going on within the walls of Westminster and Parliament. And when you look at how many crimes have been committed by not just Labour MPs, but Conservatives and many others, the abuse of power over women and children, and then they abuse these children and women, it frightens me. So I make sure that I make it my ambition to try and destroy the system the best way I know how, and I do it with my voice, and I do it a little different. Some people are you know, fairly concerned about the way I may bring it in to the marches and the protests and the outreaches, because I do use obscenities, I do, and I do curse a lot of the time, but I have been doing this for 5 years. I am very fed up that we haven't seen a major change yet, and I really don't believe we will until millions upon millions of people are out in the streets and they come and join us also, because I do believe it's not just one person that will change this. I mean, you can try to bring people courage, bravery and strength to get up and stand in their own conviction, but you need people on the streets to voice their concerns. And I don't want to just be the only one speaking it. I want millions upon millions of people. And I brought this equipment many years ago because I believed I could hand that microphone around to as many voices as possible, and the more voices heard, the more stronger the message is. And you know, we are frightening these institutions. We only just thank you, Janet. We only just did a month ago the Department of Education in London, because we filed 150 papers to the Department of Education on the concerns of what they're teaching our young vulnerable children within the classroom, and having found a database of school teachers that have been charged on abuse of children in the classroom, which is really, really frightening. We make it our mission to expose them, and we went in that building without any permission. We broke in, shall we say, with just a select few of us. We had 15 of us on the day. We managed to get in that building, and 10 officers were called on that day to try and push us back out of that building. We handed them papers, and we knew exactly what they were going to do with them papers. They were going to just chuck them in the bin and we'd take no notice. But our voices were strong that day and very loud. And within 2 days, the Department of Education's leader had sacked herself. So that was a win-win position for us. Yes, it's not going to stop, because there'll be someone else that will take her lead and push these sinister agendas against our children within the classroom, which is the 72 genders, the 72 pronouns, the talk of masturbation. I won't go into great detail with that because I'm not going to curse on here, and I've promised Zach and Tom also that I've come on here to be my authentic self. Like I say, I do use obscenities and I do swear I'm on the street because I'm passionate, but I'm going to be sensible about it. But these words have to be used, i.e. what I've just mentioned, because they're being explained to our young vulnerable children in the classroom. So we made it our mission to stop this, you know, with the lockdown drills also, what they're pushing in the classroom. scaring our little vulnerable children. My daughter being one of them, coming home from school and telling me that they're locking the kids in the classroom, they turn the light out, they're hiding them under the table, and they're explaining to them that this is a normality thing. And then you hear many cases where specific men are going into these school grounds and threatening children, which is a real concern of mine. And if I had an opportunity, I would homeschool my children, but they're with my ex-wife, unfortunately. And I'm sure many more people will understand how frightening it's going to become for our children when our time is inevitably up. So I want to choose to leave something behind for my children, maybe a legacy behind for them, so that one day they make it up and bravely fight back strong after I'm gone. And I know my daughter can see that. You know, she really understands what I'm doing. Not many people do, but she does understand. Thank you, Hassan. God bless you. And I think people are understanding it, and it ain't just like I said, the Department of Education. It's the government that's allowing these crimes to be committed against our women and children. And as this page is really good at exposing these predators, you know, these men that are on our streets, and they're getting away with it, and the police force are involved in this. They're allowing these crimes to be committed by these predators, so-called predators. They're not just in the walls of Westminster Parliament, Scotland Yard, the schooling system. They're out in your communities. A lot of these people are abusing children and women within the home. And unfortunately, last 3 years, they had many of these stupid ass lockdowns, and women were being abused in the home, and it was going unnoticed. You know, a lot of these crimes were being swept under the carpet and forgotten about. And I find it my purpose to get up and speak of it, so that some of these women, most of these women, will find the strength to continue, because they know there's people that have got their back, they've got the support. Because a lot of these women who have explained to the powers that be, which is the police forces, that they've been abused by these men, it's then swept under the carpet and forgotten about. And I'm airing it all out, and I'm bringing it out into the open so everyone can hear it, everyone can see it. And like I say, I'm not a hero, I'm not a saviour. And someone said a few weeks ago, Aaron, you're famous because you've got people following you. It wasn't about this 5 years for me. I didn't care how many likes or love hearts I got on a social media site. I didn't care how many people followed me. I just wanted to be a voice for those that were too afraid to speak it. And that's all I am, just a voice for the voiceless. I take my equipment around with me. I hold a microphone in my hand. I research this information, and I make it known to everyone. And I know most people already know this information, but it's no better place than doing it on the streets rather than online, because we can all use this. And unfortunately, we know what social media is. It's an algorithm. It's only going to attach to those that actually understand it. And it was happening with my community. No one was really getting the information apart from those that understood it already. So I had to go out into my community and air it out and speak it loud as much as I could. And this is where it's got me 5 years down the line now, and I've got my first ever antisocial behaviour order from my local council and police force, who I fought against in the last 5 years. I stood in a council building for 2.5 years, once every day of the week, to tackle local agendas and governmental agendas the councils were pushing on my community. And I exposed that they were sharing into our streets, and trying to allow other people to know what they were pushing also. And they unfortunately had, at the very last meeting we did in West Suffolk Council, a BBC editor behind me. I hadn't realised, and he was recording the evening that we spent with 72 councillors who jumped out of their seats when we brought on the abuse of women and children and what they're teaching our children in the classroom. And my council leader decided that it was fine for 4-year-olds and up to be taught how to masturbate, which I found really concerning when I spoke to him in a private meeting, that my son had been sexualised at school. And his words were, it's absolutely fine, there's no better place than a teacher teaching our children this. I don't ask for any stranger to teach my child this kind of content and material. It's only down to a parent, and even a parent that feels uncomfortable to even talk to a child like this, because I believe a child should be able to experience a childhood without the need to be talking about sex or even to be educated on some of the things they're teaching our children, and the council are accepting it. A BBC editor is there. The next day I wake up, I'm all over BBC Radio News, and now I'm online, and I look at it as a medal to me. I got this printed out, this exposure that we had at West Suffolk, and I put it in a frame because I thought, what a wonderful thing I got. I attacked the BBC the same day, and I haven't stopped since then. And we exposed this, like I say, in the streets of my community, and now I've got my first antisocial behaviour order for speaking my truth in the streets. They're not afraid of the amplified sound, they're more afraid what's coming out of that speaker with my voice, and it frightens them when I bring out most of what the police force in my community are doing and what the council are pushing. And unfortunately our town is heavily Freemasonic. It's a Freemasonic town, and I've been attacked by these people. I've had gang stalking, I've had death threats, and it hasn't stopped me from doing what I'm doing. I say, bring it on. You know, I'm not afraid of these people. When my time is up, my time is up, but I want to leave something behind for future generations to come, so they find the courage. And the younger generation in my community are rising up now. They're getting up, they're understanding it, they're listening to it, and it's instilling strength in the children not to accept what they're pushing in the classroom. It's instilling strength in the children not to be indoctrinated and pushed into anything that feels uncomfortable to them, and they can speak up. They don't have to be afraid to speak up if something doesn't feel right. And I think our children should be empowered. The future generation should be the ones that will change the world, and I can be that voice to give them that strength and bravery to do so when my time is up. And I believe if we were all to do the same thing, because we've all been given a purpose when we came onto this earth, to give something back. And you know, my life 5 years ago was completely different from this. You know, I was a big football head. I've given up all that sports entertainment rubbish. You know, we knew how the Roman Empire collapsed when everyone was in the Colosseum, the bread and circuses, and a war was upon them, and they got taken out because people, or shall we say predominantly masculines, were more interested in the Colosseum than they were standing up for the rights and protection of their women and children. And that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue to do so until my dying days and my last breath is taken. And there's many more events we're going to be planning. We hope to have one planned in London on the 1st of December. I will put the date out if that's definitely going ahead, and it'll be outside the family courts, which is where they're ripping the children away from mothers and farmers, predominantly mothers, single mothers. And I'm not standing for that. After like I say, I've had many women come to me with their stories of how they've illegally had their children ripped from their care, and that frightens me, because that's going to be every child they're coming for. We knew what the agenda was always about. The 2030 agenda was to take the children away and indoctrinate them into the new world, which is a frightening place with a digital ID. I mean, the only people we should really be tracking are well-known predators and paedophiles of Parliament, Westminster, Scotland Yard, any police station around the country, and those in your community that are getting away with these crimes against women and children. We need to expose them, and we need more men on the streets, masculines, to police the streets, because the police officers are not doing their job. And unfortunately, after reading those names outside Scotland Yard last Wednesday, you'll hear many of those names I mentioned on there that have been done on some really sinister, sick crimes against women and children, and they're wearing police uniforms, which is frightening when they're there to serve and protect the public and they're not doing their job. So who do you trust in? Us, ourselves. The only ones that can really make a change is us. And people like yourself on this group, this predator awareness group, you're doing exactly that. You're exposing these people to the wider community, so people understand who they are. Because when they're being placed around your children's schools and park areas, these men are there to prey upon our young, vulnerable children, and we need to expose them. And it's exactly what this page is doing. I've got some good friends of mine that also are predator hunters also, and they go out, and there's a lot of people doing different things. So everyone's doing something, everyone's giving something back, and we're all playing our part. None of us are any more special than each other. We're all the same. We're all making it our job to expose them. Police officer caught for being, you can see. Absolutely, yeah, 100%. You can see why they get covered up, and it's not going to be covered up anymore on my watch. I mean, I had more names I could have read out last Wednesday, and I'll save that for another day, and I'll continually hound London as much as I can before they kick me off the streets. They've already warned me that they can put a ban on me from the city central of London. I mean, there's plenty of places I can go if they kick me off, but I'll just go back and I'll keep pushing it until they arrest me, and I'll have it on camera when they do finally put me away. I know what I'm, but you know, predominantly put myself in danger. I know that, you know, the more I speak up and the more I say it, the more I threaten these powers that be, they're going to want to knock me down for that. And I know there'll be a time when my voice won't be heard any longer, but I take that on the chin, and I understand the consequences come with that. You know, I knew that 5 years ago when I decided to jump out in the streets with £800 worth of leaflets and papers and stickers and boards I'd made up, you know, to do the Rebels on the Roundabout I was doing with my group and my community. We were doing stickering, we were trying to stop the vaccine rollout on the children, so we went out at night times to put placards and leaflets all over school gates. Yes, I did it, and they know I'd done it, you know. I was written in the Bedford Press for being unruly and misbehaved is some of the words they used in my local paper, and they've read a lot about us. I mean, we did an LGBTQT protest, and it wasn't against those that were different from me, because everyone's entitled to be whoever they want to be at 18 years of age. But they held an event at a gentleman's club with young vulnerable children being masked. None of the adults were masked, and they had adult men dressed as women parading around young little children, reading books to them. Some of them were classing themselves as glitter fairies, throwing glitter in children's eyes. And in this building they were selling condoms, books that should not have been aimed at children, and they had a cabaret with men with next to nothing on dancing around children. So I made it my purpose to stand outside there and make everyone aware of it in my community. And the next day the local paper decided to call me a transphobic, call me someone that shouldn't be out in the streets, you know. I'm a danger to all because of the way I expose them, and I'm going to continue to expose every avenue I can when it involves vulnerable innocent children and vulnerable women as well. So, you know, I thank Zach and Tom for bringing me on here, and having read through the pages and seeing what people are posting up and exposing is exactly what we're doing out in the streets. So we're all playing our part, and if I'm to do another event, I would love to think that most of you guys on this page might come and join us and come and speak your voice, because there's some strong people on here, no doubt, that could be a massive, you know, a massive hit for us when we're out in the streets of London or the community, because your voices matter also, and exposing these predators like you're all doing is exactly what we need to do to make parents and families aware that they are, you know, sculling around in your communities, and unfortunately the police officers will arrest them, put them away for the night and let them back out into the community, you know. So we've got to make sure that we run them out of our towns, villages and cities, and put the fear of God in them, that they don't come out and re-offend to attack our young children, which is what they're doing at the moment. And but like I say, I've got a social media front on Facebook, Freedom Fight. That's probably my 50th account, and I've had to keep changing it because they keep banning and deleting my protest content. I've got a YouTube channel, but that don't get much hits on at the moment because they've taken a lot of the content down in the last 5 years. So there's, I hardly use that, because every time I put a video on, they they delete it, and that's under my name, Aaron Leaves. And I have a TikTok station now. That is my 60th TikTok station. I was going to give up on that platform because of the amount of times I keep getting kicked off it, but I've placed it back on at the moment, and it's getting the shares, and it's getting seen and heard, and there's more people following it. Hopefully we'll come along to any future events that I put on in the streets, whether it's an outreach or a protest against the powers that be. It's getting seen at the moment, and I'm trying to think what that's called, because there's so many names I've put on there. Footsteps for Freedom, I think I put it underneath as, and that's a name that's stuck with me for the last 5 years. I have it tattooed on my head, as you can see. It's in Viking runes, and the reason I put it on there, because it meant something to me. We're all marching to freedom. We all want freedom at the end of the day, but it means our feet have to be up on the ground, walking and marching to freedom, because freedom isn't given, it's taken. You have to take it back, you know, and they're destroying the futures and freedoms of our children. And I'm not going to sit back idly and watch, you know, regardless of how this goes, whether we win or we lose. You know, I'd like to say there's hope and there's positivity in all of this, and eventually we can collapse the system and stop these crimes being committed against our countrymen, women and children, and worldwide as well, because it didn't just happen in this country. It's a worldwide agenda, we all know that. And I'm not going to give up anytime soon until I see change or justice. And if I don't see justice, I'll fight for it to the very end, the bitter end. And no matter what comes my way, I'm going to continue to shout it loud and clear that, you know, I will not give up until I see every single one of these taken out or put behind bars, lock and key, for the crimes they're committed against, as I say, women and children, because I think that's the most important agenda at the moment. The abuse, rape, torture and harm of our women and children. You know, satanic ritual abuse is a real thing. I've met a lot of the women in 2019 when I was marching in London, and a lot of these women went through some really, really painful, tragic stories they explained to me, you know, when they were sold to the highest bidder by their parents. They've seen things that would cripple a grown man, bring a grown man to his knees. If you heard the stories that I heard, and it gave me more of a purpose to get up and try and raise the masculines. It was time for the men to rise up and stand up and be their protective selves. This is the one job we've been given as masculines, to protect the women and children. And unfortunately in 2019 there was a good 90% of women, feminine spirits in the streets that were marching against the system and fighting for women's rights and the protection of children. And when I stood beside these women, it gave me a lot of courage and strength also, because whether we like to believe it, masculines, women are the far stronger source, because they are nurturers, they are child bringers. They give far more than what we can, and we've got one job as masculines to do, and that's to protect. And that's what I am, a protector, a masculine protector, because I've got children and I know how important it is to my children to see their daddy stand up and fight back, regardless of whatever happens. And if I'm not in this world much longer and I don't see the very end of this, I want to know that my children are safe, they're protected, and they've got some freedom. And if they haven't, that they fight back when their time comes. They remember what their daddy did, and they get up and they fight back and be courageous and brave, you know. So I won't bore anyone else too much longer, because I'm talking a lot, and a one-on-one for me is difficult. I mean, I find it so easy to go out in the streets and speak it and shout it, but when I'm one-on-one with a camera, I find it difficult. Thank you, Wendy, I appreciate that, dear friend. And I might slip up a few things, because in early 2019 I used to write pages of information and read it from a sheet. Okay, Wendy Clark, thank you, dear friend. And I used to read it from paperwork, and I felt that was too robotic, too controlled when I'm writing it down. So I just speak it from the heart, and I might slip up and I might get things wrong sometimes.